Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and in today's video we're going to be doing something different. We're going to be discussing the mental game of poker, hence the title. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through some hands and talk about mental game leaks that I see people have. And these are going to be my hands, but I'm going to tell you about things that I see and my opinion, and some advice on how to fix these mistakes, mental mistakes. Squeeze, bit of small, called by reg. I know Matthew. Sizing, flop sizing is a bit questionable, but fine. I think I was on a 40% mute this day. Yeah, turn we could actually bet. I was always a check because I just think he's gonna kind of tell me what he has on the turn a lot. So when he does this, I'm like, okay, um, interesting kind of thing. And that's kind of my reaction. You have to remember also pre-flop. He's not going to have a huge amount of 10-9 or 9-8 in the spot. He's going to bluff from maybe like a king-queen float or like a, ace-queen of hearts or something. But these are the sort of hands that I can call and win versus. But yeah, he's kind of just saying he has a set or like ace-jack of hearts or something like that. Yeah, and then we hit this river. It obviously boats up and brings in the flush. When we have a hand like pocket jacks, this is pretty nice for us. Or like ace, when we have like ace king of hearts ourselves or something like that. But yeah, he just shoves off. And my question to you is kind of this: how would you react? Because I'm gonna say this is how I know a lot of people react, like low stakes, micro stakes. You might be watching this now and you might react like this. I don't know. A lot of people might do something like this. They might be like, oh, flopping two pair. Yeah, raise. Yeah, 7-turn brick. Brilliant. Excellent. 150. Yeah, cool. Oh, the worst river in the deck. And then they get frustrated and tilted. And they shout about it. They cry about it. They're like, oh, it's always this. It's always that. They think too much. They're just thinking too much about the run out of the spat. They're excited because they have a value hand. And it's nice to be excited about having value hands. I remember this hand distinctively. I remember thinking, it probably gave me the idea for the video. I remember just thinking, well, that's a bad river. Let's think about his range for a second. Yeah, I think I have to check my hand. And then when he bets, I was like, okay, I think I have to check fold. And that was kind of it. But I was disappointed, but it was like the best way. It was the best decision I could have made. Um, and I just see there are some people who you probably have friends who are like it. Maybe you're like it yourself. There's streamers who are like this. Um, they just rage at the run out. Like I see it all the time. You don't see too many elite players like this. I mean, I say elite. I'm not talking about Daniel Negreanu and Phil Hellmuth here. They're obviously legendary players, but they're not elite cash game players in any stretch of the imagination. These players don't think like this. They react to the situation. They have a present mindset, a champion's mindset, in a way. A champion's mindset is essentially a mindset which is like, I want to win, and in poker, winning looks like making the most money possible, not winning every hand. I want to win, I want to make the most money possible. Therefore, what do I have to do with my hand in this situation to make the most money possible? And sometimes the answer is you have to fold. And sometimes the answer is you have to bluff. So here's an example. 2.25x, defend, it's anti 500 now. Also probably like cash and leaderboard, so probably almost rakeless in this situation. So I'm probably defending 6-4 offsuit here sometimes, so like 5-4 offsuit is going to be like a pretty easy call for me. Against the size, he c-bets 70%. I don't really like the sizing, but yeah, I think my hand is just going to mix in theory. When you use the size, you have like gut shots with weak cards like this. There's not auto calls for sure against the bigger flop size. He also could use a bigger bet size here, but yeah, it's fine. So we raise. You could argue you don't have to raise too, because maybe the pool just don't put it enough trash into their range in a spot like king 4 of diamonds or whatever. But yeah, that's besides the point. We decide to pot the turn as a bluff. or as close to pot as we can go. Cool. Our hand is probably pure bet on turn. Gonna bluff a decent amount of run outs. I think like any overcard, some of the paired rivers. We're gonna bluff quite a lot. I wonder if we'd even bluff on like a 5 or a 4. I'm probably checking those rivers against like ace queen of hearts though. But yeah, we're gonna bluff very often for sure. But king of hearts is not a river that we want to bluff. Now the only reason to bluff here is we think it's overfolded. I don't think the spot is necessarily overfolded, so I want to really bluff with good hands. So I remember, you know, I thought about it for a while, and then I remember saying, I just think I have to check here. Yeah, that's all I remember saying. I just think I have to check here. I don't think it's going to be overfolded. I think I'm going to get bluff caught, catched enough. You know, this is not a good bluff. We block things like 5-4 spades. You know, we want to have the heart combos. Maybe we don't even want to bluff all the heart combos, although I probably would always rip when I have a heart with 5 high. But you know what I mean. And yeah, and he checks back 10-9 with the 10 of hearts. Probably a hand he's going to bluff catch. In theory, I'm guessing it's mixed. Just depends on how many like 10 of hearts I pot the turn with. I don't have too many. I might do that with, like that he blocks, maybe like obviously like 10-7 or like ace 10 of hearts is supposed to call sometimes pre, but you know, yeah. So the present mindset is, oh, we missed and we had to give up 5 high. And when we check the river here, we're assign ourselves to losing the pot 100% of the time, unless he like pussy checks back 5-4 himself. But like 5-4 of diamonds, I don't think so. It's not gonna happen. He's gonna shove when he has like 6 high or 5 high. So like yeah, we're checking and we're losing this pot 100% of the time, and that's a hard thing to do, but I ascertained that it was the best decision that I could to make at the time. I look it up in theory. It's like there's no bluff in here with this hand unless we think they overfold. I didn't think he overfolded, so you know, I didn't go for it, and that's fine. So yeah, I want to go through some hands as to illustrate an example. As I was saying, a lot of people, they go into this like entitlement mindset. You know, we've made a great hand with 2 pair versus a fish. They donked. This is beautiful. We just decide to raise. We don't want to shove because we don't allow, you know, a little bit of spew potential. But yeah, we generally just like, because of this SPR, I'm always all in. Doesn't matter what the turn is anyway. Yeah, he shoves, we call, we lose to a7 of diamonds. Okay, he probably had like 30% equity here. I think I can go see actually on the flop what he has. He has 25% equity on a turn. But yeah, he wins. Lots of people run bad and lose. You get cornered, you get sucked out on by fish. What about this hand? You know, this one's a bit different. Reg, check raise. He kind of like does his min raise on the flop. I think he should probably go a bit bigger with his value hands here. It kind of sort of felt like an overpair, but like bullshit. But like okay, I called, and the 5 comes, and he just bets the turn. I'm just shoving now. There's no point in doing anything else, in my opinion. I'm expecting he just has something here, 2 pair set, and then we lose the first run out. We lose the second run out to jacks. By the way, a lovely little nut paddle, but yeah, I mean this is fine in theory to like 3-bet this hand on this coordinated board. I just think he probably should go bigger, but you know it's up to him to play his hand. It's not my decision. But yeah, that's the reality. Like I had an amazing spot. I got it on a turn, amazing for me. You know, let's have a look. I can actually view my hand details here, and maybe I can just bring it up. Like if we see here, you know, 80%, 4 and 5 times I win the first board, and then 4 and 5 times I win the second board. So like the odds of losing here are like really low. Like You know, we're like losing, but this happening is like something like someone else can work the maths out. 4% chance this happens. Um, yeah, it's like it's a bad beat, you know. But you know that's poker. It happens. It happens. I do it to people. They do it to me. This one, not gonna look at this one yet. This one comes in aces, 4 bet, cool. We decided we're going to play check jam here. I think we thought about doing a small raise on the flop, but we thought that like our value range just kind of wants to shove here. Sorry, our bluffing range, like queen zen or you know not flush draw or like whatever. We just kind of or like 8-7 of diamonds. We just want to like play a lot of check shoves with those hands. We're folding here a lot, so a lot of our range is like playing check shove, some check calls, but like not going to check call this hand. And we get it inverse ace king, and we lose twice. King on a river, 10 there. This is probably like a 2% chance this happening. This is like extremely unlikely. These are some bad beats. These all happened, by the way, within the last month. I'm not showing this to be like, oh, woe is me, look, or like, oh, look how strong I am mentally, because that's not entirely true. But I'm just showing this as an example of just to say, if you think you run bad, and you run worse than everyone else, you're delusional. It's as simple as that. You're just delusional. In small samples, you can run really bad, but we all have those runs. How do I describe this? Yes, you're delusional. And that is a little bit harsh to say, but you are delusional because everybody runs bad. Look at this, 2%. This happens within a month, like 10, 15k hands, 4% chance, 2% chance. But these things happen. Like in poker, where you play a lot of hands, you play a lot of volume. You know, you get a lot of hands where you get bad runs. I could show you a bunch of hands where the opposite happens to me, like I hit the river. But like I think the point is, like if you go back to Queen 10 here, if we look at this hand, right? Okay, it's a bad run out for my hand. But if you think about like my range, I'm gonna arrive on this river with like some king jack, although I squeeze out a lot pre, but I'm gonna have like some king jacks with the king of diamonds. I'm gonna have like some flush draws, you know. So I'm gonna get to this river with a lot of good hands. It's just that Queen 10 is not one of those hands. You know, sometimes I'm gonna bluff with like, you know, other hands, and like on paired rivers, I'm gonna get to the river with like boats, and I'm gonna get. But the board could also come run around at ace ace, and I'm gonna get to the river in those situations with some trips and some like boats. But I could get my Queen 10 counterfeited, but like then, you know, I might be able to turn Queen 10 into a bluff. You know, there's just loads of little things that like, if you build your range properly by like actually working on your game and studying, you know, you're gonna understand that when you construct your range properly, and you work hard on your range in your game, you're gonna get into spots where like the run out is not super bad. Obviously, there are some spots where your range is just gonna be weaker, and it's going to be a better card for them. And there are some spots where your range is going to be stronger, it's going to be a better card for you, and you're going to lose value. These are just the opposite can be true. But if you understand the game and you work on your game, these spots like this shouldn't bother you, because you're going to you're going to get into the spot with like a nut flush sometimes, and you're just going to stack the guy. You know, he's going to get like king jack with a diamond, he's going to call or bet call a jam or something, just something random like that, right? These things are going to happen to. Yeah, it's all about just calibrating your range and like playing good poker and playing a good strategy, and like you can have this entitlement mindset, but it's such bullshit. Because all that does is it makes you focus way too much on like how the hand worked out, whether it was a bad run out or not. You know, you're not being accountable for your own strategy, your own mistakes that you've made. The fact that maybe in one spot you're just like, you know what, I will show you something like. So we're gonna go into Snap MDA, and we're gonna bring up the bet line, and we're gonna make it like just I don't know, big blinds versus hijack, and let's just make this bigger so like you can all see the stake, and let's just get me out of the way here. Put me into micro mode. Yeah, and if you look here, we're going to run this. This is the bet node. Single raise pot, in position pre-flop raiser, big blind versus low jack hijack. This is pretty bad spot to bluff catch on average to pull under bluffs, right? But look at the difference between like the higher stakes and the lower stakes, 50 now, and go 25 now, 10 now. This is probably just going to get like bigger and bigger and bigger. If we were to take this away and just make it like all the lines, you're going to just see that it's going to be like pretty bad here, and people are going to bluff more here, and then 500 now. A bit of a small sample, but 500 now, people take the bluff and frequencies down a little bit, so they play a little bit better. But like you see, to theory, the amount of bluffs isn't enough on average. Not every board, on average. Now it starts to become balanced. More and more, you know? It starts to become more and more balanced, like, as you go up the stakes. And probably, like, as you go even lower or even higher, this leak is going to be, like, of under bluffing in this bet line is going to be, like, way bigger than before. And I'd ask a question, why is that? Why is that happening as I move on, bring back this hand history? It's because that when people get hands on lower stakes, they're way, you know, they don't think about the spot good enough, and they don't think about what their bluff should be. So they don't have the board, the right amount of hands. So when the board texture changes, they do the same thing. They rage about it, and then they check the river, and then they lose, or you know, they lose value in their mind. They think they've lost value because the run out's bad. They and then they carry on. They don't think about the fact that, like, oh well, maybe I should have like had this type of hand in my bluffing range, or this type of hand in my bluffing range, so I actually have, you know, some more of these type of hands, more straights, more flushes, more two pairs, you know, rather than, or more trips, rather than like think, oh, I've just lost value because of this, or that, you know. And I think this is like something that I think this is quite interesting, because good players like study MDA and they kind of know the bet line is under bluffed, especially on lower stakes. And I kind of think some of the that is just simply a mental game leak, because people would rather not think about like how bad the run out is, how unlucky they are, you know, how they always get unlucky, how they always have bad beats, and they don't want to think about the 5 BB pots that they don't bluff for, that they could have bluffed for. They don't want to think about the building their range properly so they have value hands in different lines. They don't want to think about like constructing a good flop strategy. They don't want to fight for the 5 big blind pots. They don't want to fight for the 10 big blind pots. They don't want to think about this 20 big blind pot that they just like played insanely passively when they could have, you know, turn their ace high into a bluff, or like thought about the range harder, or like thought that maybe their ace high is a pure 100% check, but in actual fact maybe it's a 60% bet in theory, and maybe they should play a different strategy on the flop. You know, they don't think about all of these things. They just think about, oh, this run out's bad. And using it as an excuse to like using like bad beats and bad variants as an excuse to like not perform is like such a massively common leak in low stakes. I watched loads of Twitches. I hung out with loads of people who play poker. There's some people, you know, improve over time, they get more experience, but I just see some people like sit there and they just tilt so much about running bad. And I ask them the question, so did you study this week? And they say, oh no, I didn't study this week. So it's like, you know, did you do anything? Yeah, so like, how can you improve if you don't work on your game? It's just an excuse to be lazy. You know, it's an entitlement. You know, it's like, it's just an excuse. It's like a mental blockage. It's just like, it's just so annoying. So it's so annoying to hear people whine, and then they don't even put in the work. Yeah, I think that's a crazy thing. That's kind of part of why I made the video, is just to rant about that. Let's talk about like one last hand actually here. This hand's actually a hand, I don't know why. I think this is, I absolutely punted in this hand. So we 4-bet king queen, blind v blind, ante. Top 2's great. On the 4 we call, terrible turn, obviously, we check in. You could argue for different strategies, but like we check in, then he bets small, and then for some reason we decide to check jam. I have no idea why I did it. This looks like a mega punt. Let's make me bigger again. I'm sure people miss my face. This just seems like a mega punt. But I check jammed, and I can't remember if I was tilted or if I was just, my ego was out of control, but it's just, I can't think of this being a good play unless I thought the guy was a whale, and I don't think this guy was a whale. He definitely wasn't a whale, and we lose to nines. It's like, this is such a donation to him. I was like, why would I have done that? Because I have had hands recently where I've felt like I haven't played them well, or I've gotten unlucky, and like, you know, and I get angry or frustrated. Sometimes I like, you know, I might bang my table. Sometimes I like the other day I remember getting tilted or just angry over something, and I went to like punch the wall, and I just stopped and went, and I just sort of started slapping the wall instead, because something stopped me from doing it. You know, just like, okay, one, you're going to hurt yourself, and two, you're going to like annoy everybody in your house. So let's try to like not do that. But I'm going to share with you my tips for basically dealing with this kind of mental game league. And it's very simple. Like in a situation like I would have where I got so angry that I slapped the wall, what I would do is I would stop, and I would be aware. I wouldn't say I'd stop. I would just like I would like become aware that I'm angry, and it's pretty obvious. Like when you whine, you're aware. You become aware that you're whining. You know, when you're tilted, you're aware that you're tilted. You're frustrated. You have this awareness. If you're not even aware of these things, that's like a huge red flag, and you should really just not play poker until you've like read the mental game of poker or something. But if you're not aware, that's a bad thing. But like, you're gonna have this awareness most of the time, and you have to. I've done a lot of meditating, and in meditation, you get taught how to be present, and being present is like super important to what I would call a champion's mindset. Which I can't remember if I mentioned this earlier in the video. I'll probably link it in the description. It's a Quake. There's an old video from a Quake commentator where he talked about the champion's mindset. But essentially, the mindset is about being present. And you sit there, you have this awareness that you've tilted, that you've made a mistake, you're angry at yourself, you've made a mistake, all of these things, a punt. Like this hand, I probably had that awareness, and then I think, can I return to the present and just carry on playing and executing and not think about that hand, just try to like zone in on like making good decisions. There's obviously a lot of reasons why you can make bad decisions, you know, outside of being tilted, like not having enough sleep, and you know, your brain not, you know, working properly because you've filled it up too much with carbs, or being tired, you know, drunk, etc. But can I return to the present? In meditation, you practice by your breathing. You have an awareness on your breath or your breathing, and then your mind wanders, and then you recognize that, and then you return to the present, return to your breath, and you do it without judgment. And that's basically the first step. Is like, I'm tilted, am I aware, can I just return the performance? So then I observe myself subconsciously on the next hand, and quite a lot of the time I just carry on and I'm fine, but I observe myself and I'm like, oh, okay, how I remain present in this hand, I've made good decisions, I've not become frustrated, I'm thinking logically. But if I can't do that, and I recognize that I can't do that, the next step is to just simply take a break. Just stop, set all your tables, go downstairs, make a cup of tea, whatever, speak to somebody, do 10 press-ups. You know, one time I I remember one time I was like in the middle of a break and I was like running bad and like my brain was like a little bit. I don't think I was tilted. I was just like a little bit like all over the place. I just got up. I ran outside and I ran around my street in like a minute. Got a drink of water. Went back upstairs. So I was out probably out the door for like 3 minutes. Went back to my tables. Um, you know, I was obviously breathing quite heavily. But yeah, I remember doing that. But like, basically, just take a break, and give yourself more time for the emotions to process, and then recover, and then return to the present. And then the third thing is like, I'm quite experienced, so I know this. When you know that you cannot play good poker, and you're going to be minus EV. Now, there's a difference between like you're not sure you're profitable because you're learning the game. And if that's the case, as long as you're like thinking about the game and trying to improve and like trying your best, even if you're like, running bad, that's different from like, knowing that you're a winning player like me. Um, but like your brain, you cannot make decisions or go through the thought or think about the game as you normally should. And that's different from also just not being motivated, but knowing you're still like able to play profitably. When you start to become minus EV, that's when you just have to stop your session and like maybe you take a break for an hour, or you just come back tomorrow. Um, it doesn't happen too often. Sometimes it happens with me, but like I just have the experience of knowing that sometimes I'm going to be. It's not going to happen that often, but sometimes I'm going to be minus EV, and sometimes I have to stop my session. So those would be the biggest mental game tips that I would like give you as a player on how to deal with this lack of awareness, lack of presence. Beyond that, like realistically, the main thing is just you just have to be willing to like work on your game super hard and have a champion's mindset. Like you just can't, I'm not saying I'm a champion. I'm just saying that you just have to have that mindset because it's such like this. It's such a big thing that holds people back. It's really insane. It's probably like a good thing it holds people back because the poker would be 10 times harder if like people dealt with their emotions better, and were more responsible. I think to end the video, to quote David Goggins, people are so weak. There are so many people who are so good at stuff, but people are so weak and they don't want to do the hard stuff. And that gives you edge. And it's true with the mental game. Yeah, anyway, it was a different video. You can tell me your opinions if you did sit through and listen to me for the whole time. Link is in the description, by the way, for my Discord. I'm still trying to get up to 1,000 subs, so you can like and subscribe. And yeah, I'll catch you guys next time.